Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So Let's Resin recently sent me their hand painted resin and I've been super curious to try it out. So that's what we're going to do today. Now inside this box you get a pair of scissors with a resealable bag, you get piping bags, you get some mica powders, you get obviously part A and B of the resin. You also get some of the tiny little plastic disposable cups. You get two of the 100 milliliter plastic cups and some mixing sticks. Now, this resin is a 2-to-1 ratio and it is by weight, not by volume, so that is important to know. And we're going to fool around today. Now, I have seen a handful of projects where people are using the hand painted resin from them, but I have not seen this and I did look. So I wanted to try this out and see how this would hold up if you wanted to stencil using it. So we're going to mix up a little bit of resin. Now, when I mean a little bit of resin, I mean a little bit of resin. Like, this isn't your typical resin. You're not using like a crap ton of it like you would if you were actually making the coaster. This is mainly for, like, I guess, embellishment type stuff and all that kind of good stuff. So you really don't need a lot. And 15 milliliters, like, I think that's all I did, maybe a little bit less. And honestly, this stuff goes a long way, and I still had some left over. So less is more with this. Start out small and then kind of work your way up to what you need. Like, I get it. It's a pain in the butt if you have to remix it. You know, nobody wants to do that. But with this stuff, I would recommend doing that because it really does go a long way. All right, so what I'm going to do is we're going to use 4 different colors. So I'm taking just a tiny little bit and I am splitting it up into the 4 little pots. And instead of using the piping bags today, because that's not what we're going to do, I want to see if I can get these stencils to work. Now, the 2 coasters that I'm using are it was just stuff from leftover resin that I threw into a mold and whatever. So there's nothing special about it. Like, there's no super crazy, like, real finished project today. It's an experiment. And I picked up the 2 stencils. One is like super detailed and the other one you got more space in there. I mean, you can make it more detailed if you want to add stuff in. I'm going to use the butterfly that's on there. You can add more like details into the wings of the butterfly if you want, which is what I'm going to do, or at least attempt to do. But I want to see how it holds up to one of these hearts that has itty bitty tiny little details in it. So that's what we're going to do. And I am using my Rolio mica powders today. I'm using purple heart. I'm using turquoise. And I'm using, I think it's coal. It'll be in the list. Of course, I don't have yeah, it's coal. And then I'm going to use HTV Ront white mica powder, and we're going to kind of go with it. Now for this, depending on how small the area is, I used a dotting tool. A toothpick would work, especially on the heart that I'm going to do. I think a toothpick would work a little bit better because, I mean, there are tiny little holes in there. But we're going to see if we can make this happen, if it's going to run underneath the stencil, because I do know, like, there are spray adhesives that you can use to actually hold the stencil down. I'm not doing that. I'm just putting a little piece of tape on the top so I don't move it, and that's it. So I know from past experience how resin and all of that, even if you wait for it to thicken, will seep underneath that stencil. I want to see if this is going to happen. And you can tell I'm not putting any real pressure on here at all. Like, it's that piece of tape and that's it. And I'm going to use the white, I'm going to use purple, and then I'm going to use a little bit of the green, and I'm just going to fill in these tiny little holes and see if it will work when I pull the stencil off. Not going to wait for it to dry. I'm going to do it all while it's wet. And then after I'm done with these, I do want to try one other experiment. Now, we all know about the Daniel Cooper and the lotion with stencils and it leaving kind of that like embossed kind of texture in there, almost like an inlay type deal. Well, what if you can put your stencil inside your mold And you could do it there and then remove the stencil and have it stay in place, right? Until it dries. Now, granted, it's not immediate like, say, the lotion thing is. You put it on, then you pour your resin. But I think that you could get some really, really cool effects doing it. Especially, what if it's curved? What if your mold is curved? I'm not talking flat surfaces. I'm talking, like, say, the frog mold, for instance. Well, we're going to try it out and see. Okay, so the heart's done. Now, if you weren't paying close enough attention, I did kind of smush it back on there. It dropped and it smushed. So the lines aren't the greatest because I did kind of mess it up a little bit. But you can see the 3D effect on it, and it's not moving. And it worked out pretty well. So now we're going to try this butterfly. Now, because of the way that the actual stencil is kind of shaped, I am holding it in place a little bit more because I don't want to tape down like all the areas of the wings. I think it's going to cause me more problems. And I'm going to go a little bit more detailed in here. Instead of just doing it with one color or even two colors, I'm going to outline it in black, and then we're going to put a little bit of design in here and see what happens. See if the colors are going to merge or if they're going to stay put, and just see if it stays like this throughout its curing process without moving it at all. I mean, that's kind of what, like, this could open up so many possibilities if this works. Like, not just for your finished pieces. So, say, okay, we'll use the coaster, for example, right? You're going to do the coaster. Well, I know there's some people who like my mom, for instance, she doesn't want the coasters where it's a flat edge and like the condensation from your drink or whatever can run off. She kind of wants it a little with an edge, like a little lip to it on hers. That's what she prefers. So what if you had a coaster with a little lip on it and then you decided that you wanted to do some design so you could have like this cool textured kind of coaster that inside all of those little grooves will hold on to that condensation so that it won't just kind of spread off, which could be cool. Or just the kind of like the raised edges just add so much detail to any other piece. But if it works inside the mold, I think that it has the potential of being super, super cool. All right, so we are going in with the kind of finishing touches of the big part of the wings, and then we're going to see if this actually works. And then we're going to move on to the frog. Now, again, like I said, guys, please don't judge me for the pieces. This was experimental kind of stuff. So the only thing that I will be actually making full outright will be the frog, but it's kind of to give you guys an idea of whether or not this would work and all of that fun stuff. And honestly, especially for the frog, my stencils aren't necessarily like the right size and shape. All right, let's look at this butterfly. Look how pretty that looks. And you can see all the depth and the height that resin stays. And this is just using a dotting tool to kind of put it in place. All right, now for the frog. And I apologize because my camera is stupid and it doesn't understand that once you focus on something being close, you need to refocus yourself on something far away. So it just kind of stays dumb and it's a little blurry, but I think that you can kind of get the basic gist of what I'm doing. And I'm just I cut out the stencil. It's still not the right size for it. Ideally, a smaller stencil would work better, but I didn't really have anything smaller because this was kind of like I had the idea and I immediately tried it without necessarily having all of the right tools for it. But whatever, it's fine. It'll be fine. So I am going in here and I kind of shoved it in as best as possible. Now, is it touching the entire inside of the mold? No, it is not the right size for it. And me shoving it down there, my stencil was kind of starting to break in one of the corners where I had to cut it super close, so the plastic was really thin and I didn't want that to happen either. So I just kind of went with it and I'm taking, it's this really neat silicone tool that Let's Resin had sent in one of the kits. I can't remember which one it was, but the pointy end of it, and I'm just going in and kind of putting it in there. All right, so now I took out the main part. Now I'm going to go in and kind of re-detail it up because, like I said, it wasn't flat on in there. And even if maybe, like me, I can't, like, hand paint or hand draw something. So if you're the type of person and you're lucky enough to be able to actually draw, you could do all kinds of crazy stuff in here, like just freehand on there. I can't do that, but it's fine. Like I said, it's an experiment. It's kind of like a prototype type deal. It's not an actual finished, hey, this is my project. It's just to give you guys an idea of what you can do with it. So I am going in and trying to make the flower petals look as good as I possibly can free-handed. And then I'm going to go in with the white after I'm done kind of touching up the purple and just fill in that center. Instead of having it just the like stenciled out part, I decided I wanted to go in with the white for the center. And because I still have some resin left over, I'm going to go in with the green behind it and kind of make kind of sort of leaves, because why not? Now, the only thing that I would say that could potentially be an issue depending on the detail of what you're doing is the fact that in a mold like this, for instance, you have to do it in reverse. So the bottom is the top. So for fine details and stuff, like if you could figure that out in your head, I'm not that smart. Like I can't do that, but you'd have to work in reverse as far as like the painting of it on there goes. But it's fine. And I'm just, because I finished with the flower and I still have resin left over and I don't want to waste it, I'm going to dot him up and put some dots here and there on him because why not? Like I said, I have the resin. Putting them upside down too, because that's a test too to see if it will actually stay upside down. So we're just going to kind of go with it. I'm going to finish doing this and then I'm going to mix up some resin, and I decided to go with Rolio's deep black pigment paste because I think that black will make these colors pop if it works. But I am letting this dry first, so I'm going to wait a full 24 hours before I kind of pour any other resin on there. Now, another experiment would be, could you do this wet and pour resin on top of it? Would it stay? And that's maybe something worth kind of looking into as well. Maybe a future experiment just to kind of see if it's something that you can do as a one-step process as opposed to waiting 2 full days for it. I don't know. I didn't try it this time, but maybe in the future we'll play around with it a little bit more. All right, so I just mixed up some of my Let's Resin epoxy resin and added some of the Rolio pigment paste into it, and then we're gonna pour this in. And of course, you know, 9 times out of 10, when I'm making my frog, I feel like I'm making him out of just leftover resin. But of course, this time I thought I had made enough, and I didn't, so I have to make more. But it's fine. Why would I make the amount that I'm supposed to make right the first time? Like, it just doesn't happen. So I'm going to make up a tiny bit more resin, and then I'm going to be back and we're going to let this dry and see what happens. All right, so we are just filling up his little fingers and his toes and all that good stuff. And I'm going in there because I feel like it's an air bubble, but it's not. It's the white resin that I put under there. And then I'm just going to fill them up after I hit them with the heat gun. And all right, here we are 24 hours later. Now these are all nice and dry. Okay, so this one, it got a little smushed because, like I said, I dropped it. The butterfly is, I mean, it looks the same as it did before, so that's pretty cool. Like, I actually really like the butterfly a lot. It almost reminds me of one of those, like, 3D puffy stickers that you can get. It's kind of cool. All right, but the frog. This could be, like, super crazy, game-changing. And I'm really, really excited to see how it works. And it's gonna be kind of weird because, like, it's all puffy on the two coasters that I did, but with the frog, it shouldn't be. So it'll be opposite, so it should be smooth. So, I don't know. But if I ever get them demolded sometime today, we'll find out if it worked. Which, I mean, honestly, like, I can't see any reason why it wouldn't, because we saw it after it dried and it stayed in place. It's just going to be basically down to the did I do a good job stenciling it in part. Because we all know it should work, in theory. Oh my god, come on. I don't know why I was struggling so bad with demolding him this time. It's not like it's the first time I've demolded this thing. I feel like it's all I've been doing lately is frogs. Alright, so I do have a few bubbles. Alright, so I think he's really cute. Now, again, I wrong size stencil, and I am not the best drawer in the world. Like, I can't do it, but I think he's really cool, and I think that if you have the right size stencils that you can make work in there, I think that it will work. Anyway, that is a wrap on this one, guys. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. I will catch you Thursday in the next one. Love ya. Bye.